Hi, I'm Reggie Turner. I'm here with Jim Miller and Terrence Moore. FlipSide starts right now. Welcome to the show. Gentlemen, before we jump into topics, Terrence, it is nice to have you with us again. Jim, do you think he's used all of his PTO?
I think he has. I think he has.
Yeah, he's been sparse, but traveling the world is hard and someone has to do it. So welcome back, man.
Oh, thank you.
Before we start, actually, as long as we're getting off track from like in the first 10 seconds, I need to say that upon coming into the studio tonight, I found out that starting, I guess, tonight or next week, Antietam Broadband will be airing a replay of the county commissioners meeting. For most of our viewers probably don't know,
Wednesday night at 6.
Wednesday night at 6, if you heard that in the background, is when that will air on the two local channels. And I think in my view, it's just another example of Antietam and how they step up for our community and how they are an active member. So I think that's good. And I know there's other opportunities to see it on Facebook or on YouTube or also live. But yeah, I like it.
I mean, most county commissioner meetings around 10 a.m. So
most of us are at work.
Most of us are at work or at home at work, right? In one combination or another. But so to have another avenue to see what is happening in our community and how our government is making decisions is a good thing.
Do I get commentary too?
You do.
Okay.
Please.
So this is International Women's Day that we are recording. So recognition and celebration to all the women in our lives, in our communities, and in our families. And this is Women History Month as well. So I know we're a bunch of guys sitting around the table, but none of us get here without the women in our lives, right? One way or another.
I am in total agreement. And hi, Mom. So, gentlemen, let's jump into these topics. Before the airing of the show, we were going to talk about City Council had narrowed, or they received 18 applicants. Two of the applicants were disqualified because they did not meet residence restrictions.
And we don't know which of those two were the case, right?
No. Other than speculation, but that's barroom talk.
Right.
But of the applicants that were left, I mean, as of now, we have this list narrowed down to 5 that are going to be interviewed in open session next Tuesday. The 5 that are going to be interviewed for the city council seat is Sean Flaherty, Jennifer Gardner, Stacy Lynn Michael, Matthew Schindler, and Stephen Schutte. I'll let you start, Jim. What do you say? What do you say when you see this list of those that were picked and those that weren't?
Yeah, so I think there is a clear move, intentional or unintentional, to have some younger candidates or some younger blood in the city council. I wouldn't hazard a guess on. Actually, I would hazard a guess, but I won't do it publicly. On who among our candidates is the youngest to the oldest. I don't know a lot about probably 3 of the 5 of these candidates. So it'll be interesting to see. The decision process here and who we choose. My gut tells me that it's Stephen Schutte. That's my gut, but I could be wrong. Yeah. If I was a betting man.
Yeah. Looks like you're trying to be on the winning side of things for once. Terrence, what say you?
Well, I agree with your gut, first of all. And I know that he is a friend of the chamber. So I think there's some pros there as well. I know there's always been some friction between the business community as well as with our council. So there may be some opportunities to build on that. Not saying that it's been consistent, but maybe the opportunity to bridge some of that with his relationship with the chamber. And he's also run things like, I believe that he was the young professional winner of the business awards, I believe, last year. And I know he ran somewhat of a chamber networking group for young professionals as well. So I think that tie there may be offer up some benefits. But all that aside of who may win and who may be selected, this process it's a little off-putting to me, right? We're selecting someone who is going to be representative of the constituents, the voters as a whole. We're allowing people who were selected to select on our behalf, correct? And we're just getting a list of names. We had a list of names that showed in the paper. Now we have a shorter list of names. We have no background on these individuals. We don't get access to their resumes. Doing research, you got to go out to pretty much social media or search the web to get some information on somebody who may be representing us in the decisions that impact our lives. I think this process should have an open form, at least some kind of form that has a summary that allows us as constituents to look into the process on why certain people are being selected and why others are not. So that's my biggest takeaway right now is, and not just this, because we've seen it in other forms of government in other areas as well when someone has been appointed to a position. But I think it needs to be a little bit more transparency so we can understand who is going to be filling the seats and making decisions on our behalf.
So are you opposed only to the transparency, or do you think, and I shouldn't say opposed, are you questioning not only just the transparency, or are you also questioning the process? Should there be a different process to select?
I think the process should be tweaked. Outside of having the opportunity for the voters to vote, at least have us have some transparency into the process a little bit more. So the process is what it is. They get to select. I'm fine with that if that's the choice. Hopefully we've selected representatives through the voting process that still have the best interests of the constituents and will pick someone who is aligned with those best interests. And we have a diversity amongst the council where it's not one-sided and someone's trying to bring in who they're more familiar with to sway votes. I hope that kind of thing gets put aside, not saying that it can or that it's not happening. But I'm saying specifically, I need more than a name. I think you got applications. I think it was enough for you to take those applications, take a summary, have the applicants fill out some kind of portion that was going to be public facing, that we can have some understanding of who these individuals are. Right now, they're just names on paper.
Right.
Understanding, I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a minute.
Sure.
Understanding that the three of us would probably like to see that. Understanding that there may be others. What percentage of the population do you think really cares? Do you think is engaged at that level in the process?
I don't know the percentage. I seen the popularity kind of contest about it happen on social media, right? People kind of just picking who they want based on who they knew, right?
Who they knew, who they liked.
Right.
But wouldn't that same thing happen regardless of whether we have a complete curriculum vitae on each of these candidates?
Absolutely, but that's a choice. Right now, I don't have a choice. Give me the choice to say, you know what, I'm just going to pick who I like. Right now, all I can do is pick who I know or what name sounds familiar, or even, I don't get to pick at all, really. All I do is kind of watch the process roll out and be happy with it, yay or nay. I don't know right now. That's my problem. My thing is, even though if 1% of the population cares, you should at least put out the information for 100% to care. And we're not getting that.
You're a human resource professional.
Yes.
Among other things. Other good things, I need to clarify that.
Please clarify that. Yes.
Would you ever hire an employee without a job description?
No.
What is the job description for not just city council, but for any of our elected officials? What do we want? What are the criteria we are looking for? And I know that we have the stump speeches nationally and statewide about, pro Roe v. Wade, anti Roe v. Wade, whatever. What is the job description? What are the qualifications necessary to be a council person, to be a commissioner, to be a state delegate, a state senator, a congressman?
I would reverse that. Would I ever apply for a job I didn't know the job description? That's the issue.
Well,
because I think there's a way to find out what a city council person does, right? there's an understanding. I guarantee if you ask everyone on this list what their roles, responsibilities, and expectations will be in this role, could they all answer you and give you a true description, an accurate one? I'm not sure. I think some of these positions, and I've said this already, at every level of government, they get glamorized because their title and prestige, the assumption of power, the American Idol kind of mindset of government versus what you truly bring to around that table. Now, again, I'm not taking anything away from these individuals that are selected because I don't know what they bring because that information hasn't been provided to me.
Well, and my gut could be entirely wrong because, as I said at the beginning of this, I only know maybe 2 or 3 out of the 5 of these people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what I'm saying. Right now, anything we say can be damaging because we don't have the information. And that's why I want to put that clear. We can have conversation about this, and we're not targeting the individuals because we don't know enough about what they put in their resume to be selected to this point. We only know what we heard about them, our interactions, what we've seen on social media, and I think we need more than that. And we complained during the last election of these candidates not putting out enough information about themselves. Here was a good opportunity where this information was specifically handed to our council to make a decision, and we still haven't seen it.
Yeah. So 2 things for me, gentlemen. Number one, I'm encouraged by the amount of individuals that put their names in the hat and still would like to serve. So that piece was encouraging. But the second thing is, are there any individuals on here that you see that you are surprised that did not make it to the interview process?
Oh, you mean from the road not taken?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. In my view, there are. I guess at the top of that list is Roger Fairborn.
Absolutely.
Now, is he one of the candidates that had an issue with where he lives? I don't know. I don't know where Mr. Fairborn lives.
He was named as one of the applicants. He wasn't one of the 2 that were disqualified were not named.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So I think Roger Fairborn certainly is at the top of that list.
One of the things that Councilman Alshire was kind of pleading for in this process is someone that understood government, how the wheels of government worked. And in looking at this list and not knowing the backgrounds of all of these people, Roger would be the one person that I would say, he would have a track record that he would have a firm grasp on this.
Yeah, absolutely. And exactly. And he certainly understands the housing market, right?
Absolutely.
And, we have a county commissioner who understands the housing market, and I know people will disagree with me, but I think that's been a very important voice in our county commission.
Yeah.
And I also say this, if I'm applying for a job, and I say this anytime you even been asked to be on a board of an organization, what's the first thing you should ask for? The financials. And they haven't even released their budget this year. Right. I'm not applying to be in city council and management if I don't know what the budget looks like right now for this year. And we're too close for that, for me not to have access to that.
Could you imagine walking into this job knowing that you're going to have to raise taxes?
Exactly. Exactly.
I'm not saying that's on the table, but I mean, that's a reality that we're probably going to have to face at some point the way the economy is shaping up.
At some point.
It was on the table last year.
Well, it was, but they didn't raise taxes again.
But they left themselves a leeway to change it within a year.
I know that, but arguably they've done pretty well with not raising taxes in the city.
I'm not saying that's good. I think taxes should be raised. I know, don't get on me, don't attack me.
Yeah.
I think it's about time. I think we need to raise taxes. If you look in comparison to where we are to some of the other, communities in the area, I think it's okay to raise taxes. I think we have to. I can't remember the last time taxes were raised in the city limits. Over a decade?
I don't know.
More?
All I know is at the State of the Cities, which by the way was today, the day we are shooting, I know the video highlighted again that another year of stable taxes. So.
And again, stable taxes is a great headline.
It is a great headline, but in a conservative community, it's also a path to success because that's what And I know Hagerstown is far more democratic than the rest of the county, but the reality is, who doesn't think they pay too much in taxes?
Exactly. Is it when you say a path to success? What's success?
Well, I think I think hopefully it means that they are good stewards of our money. I think it is a good, if you're running based on that history, I think that's a good thing.
Not raising taxes doesn't make you a good steward of money. I think there has to be balance.
But are there things that you can point out that the city of Hagerstown is not doing from a services standpoint for its constituents that other cities are? Significant elements. We have fire service. We have paid fire service, by the way, in the city. We have EMS. We have a police force. We have, you get trash service through the city. You get there are many things. We have water for not only the city but for the county, run through the city.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not saying we don't have those things, but if it wasn't for the pandemic, where would we be at financially, right? And the money that was infused into the city, right? One more bad thing. Can you comfortably say, looking at the budget for the last couple of years, that something could not rock this budget or this city?
It absolutely could, but I could say that same thing about the county, and I could say it about the state, and I could say it probably about, hundreds of other cities in our.
Can you say about the state? Because we just built a surplus of rainy day fund to ensure things like that don't happen. Does this city have a rainy day fund? Does our county have a rainy day fund?
Well, the county certainly put money into a rainy day fund, right?
Okay, now does our city have a rainy day fund?
Well, I can't answer that, but the last time I heard, yes, we do have a rainy day fund at some point. I don't know what the level is at this point.
And that's what I'm saying. And if taxes is necessary, with inflation and the cost of things going up in our community, and even the cost of what our city is spending, it's hard for me to believe that not raising taxes for a substantial amount of time isn't something we can do, and do so responsibly. I'm not saying hike it through the roof. I'm just saying there needs to be some kind of balance or some kind of consideration for that. That's it.
But by the same token, if you look at inflation, specifically in the real estate market, the city gets a lot of funding from what? Real estate taxes. And as the value of our real estate increases, the income from that value increases to the city. So there is a tax hike. It's just not in the form of a percentage.
But we also have a housing shortage and not enough homes as well. So sooner or later, that it adds to a deficit. If we don't have enough homes, that means even if the value of these homes go up, we're not going to have enough people buying additional homes to offset the growing population, like the homeless population that we're seeing all over the city. I'm just saying, I'm not knocking, and I'm not a big proponent on let's always raise taxes. I'm not that person. I'm just saying there is always a strategic way to address taxes to keep yourself from being at the mercy of one bad year.
Well, that point I think is well taken, and I also think there's a point to be made, and I say this in business all the time. Don't wait 10 years and then raise your rates 50%. Raise them 5% a year, and very few will be concerned about it.
Look what the Fed is doing to us right now. Look what happened by holding interest rates so low for so long, trying to recover from the housing crash. If they had gradually tapered us back up, we wouldn't be seeing the inflation rates we have right now, and the counteraction to those inflation rates that's going to possibly drive us into a deep recession.
But that's a totally separate beast, right? Because the Federal Reserve has been politicized.
Oh, it absolutely has.
Right.
And by the way, it's not just the interest rates at the Federal Reserve that's caused this inflation. It's the government printing money.
That too.
Well, that principally.
Right. And again, it's happening across the board. They printed money. Where did that money go?
Well, there are a lot of organizations, including a lot of not-for-profits, that's balance sheet is far better today than it was pre-COVID.
As well as municipalities.
Yes.
Yes. And frankly, state governments exactly.
And I'm not picking on Hagerstown. But I'm just saying across the board, a lot of communities are seeing a flush of cash that they may not be able to sustain.
Well, that's the point. That money is drying up, and that's
Well, we're not printing as much money at this point.
Right.
Hopefully we'll stop printing this much money.
Right.
Otherwise, your kids and my kids are going to bear the brunt of it.
They're going to bear the brunt of it anyway. Like to turn this $11 trillion ship around, I mean, it's not going to be that quick. So,
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, let's take a break here, and after the break, let's come back and talk about our former governor Larry Hogan and his presidential ambitions.
Larry out.
Larry out.
Larry has left the building.
More from the flip side after the break. Welcome back to the show. Tone Loc, huh?
And it wasn't Funky Cold Medina, it was Wild Thing.
All right.
Oh well, we'll leave that there. That's more
Viewers
off-camera
will not
talk.
understand our commercial. No, let's keep going.
Yeah. So, gentlemen, back to the serious topics at hand. Former Governor Larry Hogan has decided not to run in 2024 for a multitude of reasons. Probably the biggest is that he saw there wasn't a pathway for him to win. But he's been on the speaking circuit, and one of the things he spoke about was he wanted to make sure there wasn't a large field competing against Trump because he thinks that Trump needs to be defeated. Jim, what say you about this?
Well, my Republican friends are not going to be happy, my Trump-loving Republican friends are not going to be happy with me about this, but I think Trump needs to be defeated as well. And I can't speculate whether Larry Hogan's inclusion in the field would make that more or less difficult. I think more accurately, Reggie, is exactly what you said up front. He doesn't see a pathway to victory.
Yeah.
It's interesting, when he made this announcement, I made a point to listen to several talk radio programs, and it was surprising to me the number of people that had already discounted him as a candidate anyway. And I realize he's our governor, so we know a lot more about him. I like the guy. I'd support him in a second. I like the fact that he's a centrist. I like the fact that he is, I like many things about him. But I get it. And I think, frankly, I don't think we've heard the last from him, for sure.
No, and one of the things that Terrence and I talked about early in the week is possibly his path is to run for Senate.
Yeah, we see what's happening between McCarthy and McConnell, right? The party needs a strong voice that comes out that doesn't have any real skin in the game. So I think him speaking out was really to do justice to the party, right? It was kind of to speak up, speak out, and just kind of have a voice of someone where you don't have to be polarized and pulled to one side or another of the party, because the party will be ultimately pulled apart if this continues to, accelerate on who wants Trump to be the nominee. Can he win the nomination? I hate to say it, I think he can. I'm sorry, but
Who?
Trump.
No.
Okay.
No.
It's
New Hampshire polls, which came out a few days ago, had him at 58%.
Okay.
DeSantis was at 17. Nikki Haley was at 4.
You're gonna have to throw somebody else in the race to tell me otherwise. You got to give me another name. And this is why I know we say.
Be careful, you're upsetting Jim.
Continue. No, I'm just thinking about the inevitable wager that's going to come out here.
I said again, right now the field, unfortunately, I think it leads his way. I think he can take it. That's why I know we say, oh, Hogan, didn't see a path forward. I don't believe that either. I know that everyone said we understand. We've seen him a little bit more being in the state of Maryland. But we've also haven't seen a national campaign back behind him either. We haven't seen him tout his wins nationally either, right? Remember, Donald Trump won, and more people knew him from television and some of the things he did in New York City, right? So I think we haven't really seen the locomotive and the funding that can really push a candidate out with former Governor Hogan's track record and things that he can be celebrated upon. Even some of the things, and I know I said this even during the pandemic, internationally, I just think that his path forward isn't as muddled as many may think. And I think he's in a good position not to put himself out there. But we've seen politicians do this before. I'm not going to run. I'm not going to run until they know it's time to run. And if I was someone that was his strategist, I would tell him to say the same thing. Why put your name out there right now and get bloodied up? Hold back, act like you can say whatever you want from the comforts of you're not running.
See if the landscape changes.
See the landscape changes and not take any blows.
Well, the thing is that there is no shortage of seeing him on television right now.
No, there's not.
And he has carved out a lane for himself as anti-Trump in the Republican Party. And he's hugged up very closely to the legacy of Ronald Reagan. So I see what you're saying in regards to that.
I think that's a valid point, that run that lane, say, I'm not running, and then maybe that leaves you open to say, well, maybe I will
But
run.
the other side is the donor base, right? When you're looking at the landscape to see what money you can raise, Trump sucks up a lot of oxygen when it comes to the money. And there are a lot of people that don't want to go against Trump because of the fact that they may be attacked. Their businesses may be attacked.
Mm-hmm. But see, Larry Hogan, I think, stated very clearly in one of his interviews where he said that he had beat life-threatening cancer, so nothing that Donald Trump would say could hurt him, right?
It's not about what Donald can say to hurt him. It's the donor base that he will be going after to fund his campaign. Because to beat Trump, you're going to have a lot of money.
Yeah.
You're going to have a lot of money, especially for a candidate like Hogan that does not have national exposure.
Let's put another data point in play here. How did the impact of the midterms affect his decision? Because everybody was expecting the Republican wave, kind of like they were expecting the Hillary Clinton win. And the Republican wave, in large part, did not happen.
No.
You would think that would have strengthened him to run.
I wouldn't think so.
By Republicans not winning, that would speak to a more moderate electorate. Why would not bolster him to think that he should run?
Okay.
Wishful thinking. I think the parties are getting diluted. I think the infighting in these parties are getting really diluted. And this next election could be one, or maybe not this next one, or the one after the next, are going to be one really about the candidate again. That'd be amazing, right?
It'll be about the candidate again once we are done with Biden and Trump.
Right. And that's why I said the next one after
Right,
the next.
right.
We've seen it right now, even with some of the grooming of our current governor right now, as people start to already speak about him possibly being, a candidate for presidency. So I really don't think that Hogan is out of the race. All right. I think right now he's going to make his noise from the sidelines, build up his confidence and his reputation nationally by speaking out more nationally on national issues, and feel himself out in a year or so and go, you know what? I think I can do this. And there may be a lot of support within the party who may just back him despite of what's already in the field. So there's dollars out there that will do that specifically.
All right, let me bring another point. I don't know who got to the microphone first, but Joe Manchin, the Democrat, albeit largely Republican, senator from West Virginia, mentioned that he may be interested. He is certainly a middle of the road, even potentially more so than Governor Hogan.
Well, Manchin, if anything, would have more name recognition than Hogan because, of the position that he holds in Congress. So, but
he also, more recognition, more enemies.
More enemies.
So I
But
think
here's the thing,
and one of the poorest states in the union.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's true. Is that Manchin's fault, though?
Who's not going to stick him with it? Trump will surely stick him with that.
Okay.
it's his fault by default.
Right.
All right.
The same way that we blame city council that we have a 27% poverty rate, we're going to blame Joe Manchin for the state of West Virginia.
Yeah. when realistically neither of them have a significant impact on that.
No, they can only do things to help with the conditions on the ground so that individuals and private businesses can then help move us out of that. So, Terrence, how do you see it? Do you, I mean, is there a circumstance where you could see some of these lawsuits or something blooding up Trump to make him come back out and say, hey, I'm jumping in?
You got to suffocate Trump. These lawsuits just embody him to go harder.
This
and
is free
louder.
press.
Right.
There is no such thing as bad press.
Especially
Only
not with him.
press.
No. And, they was always saying, the fact that these lawsuits, for him to skirt them would, if he was to get in position, to win the presidency again, it may be in his best interest. So I think the best thing to do is stop talking about Trump.
That's not going to happen. I mean,
He's clickbait.
every time a presidential cycle ends or an election cycle ends, you're into the next campaign. So he's naturally going to be talked about. And right now, he's not really doing much of anything, and they're still talking about him because when you look at these straw polls and different things that are happening, he is blowing away the field by far.
Yep. And
It's very early. Who is the field on the Republican side at this point?
It's only announced this himself and Nikki Haley.
Right.
So that's
We're assuming DeSantis is going to get in.
after he's done with his book tour.
He wrote the book. He's running around. It's funny. Like the signs are always the same, right? And it's funny because I even look at Wes Moore. What did Wes Moore do a week ago? He bought a dog.
Oh yes, yeah.
He bought a dog.
Of course.
The political strategy.
It's the political strategy, right? You got the dog, so it's like everybody's teeing everything up. And not saying that Moore is trying to run this cycle, but I'm just talking about the pattern of behavior that you see out of politicians. Like there's a certain playbook that has to be fulfilled to say that you're moving forward and you're probably going to run for
You
president.
can change the plays as much as we want. You still got to throw the ball, run the ball, and play defense. No matter what, there's still going to be plays that you got. Those are still the same plays. And the biggest play right now is get national attention. Book tours get you national attention. You get to pretty much campaign state to state, just saying that you're signing off a book to really build your notoriety with a book tour.
Well, being the governor of Florida is going to get your national attention anyway.
Not great attention, though. He got to be careful with that. So this is something to become more man of the people. Everything he's done right now and the attention that he has received has been very polarizing, has been from a high speaking down to people,
But again, though, at this stage, his audience is a Republican electorate. He is not worried about the other side of the aisle in regards to how he's trying to present himself at this point.
No, he's not, for sure.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that's going to hurt him.
He's
because-
preaching to the choir.
Yeah, maybe, but there's a lot of Republicans that don't like him because he is so centrist.
So
I don't see him as
I
centrist.
never saw DeSantis as senator.
Oh, I'm sorry, DeSantis. I'm sorry, I'm back on Hogan. No, he is not. No, he is not centrist for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's leave that there, gentlemen. Let's take another break. We have a lot of stores that are closing around the U.S., so let's kind of come back and cover that because, Terrence, you have warned us for many months. If people have not been preparing for winter is coming, that is no fault of this show because you have been really clear on that. So.
Not just me, but the Fed as well.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that a little
And
bit
during
more.
the break, we're going to discuss the bet on Trump because I think I have two
You got
people
two
that
suckers on the line.
that are going to buy me dinner. No, we've already been to the grill at Runway, so I think we'll go to Bistro 11,
We'll
one of my
see.
other three favorite
We'll
restaurants.
see if you can win her dinner back.
Okay.
All right, stay with us, and we'll have more in regards to store closings around the country after the break. Welcome back to the show. Jim, you are quite the comedian today. You are really on it. But gentlemen, more than 800 stores have closed around the United States in 2023, and we haven't even got out of the first quarter. Just giving a rundown, 416 Bed Bath & Beyond stores have closed, including the one in our community that's going to close. Tuesday morning, 265 stores is closing. I believe one of those is in our community as well. Gap and Banana Republic, up to 74 stores are closing. Bath and Body Works, we have 50 stores closing, 22 Party City stores, 20 Best Buys closing, 10 Walmarts, 7 Big Lots, 6 The Real. I'm not sure what that luxury brand, Terrence, you probably have more familiarity with that one. 4 Macy's, 2 J.C. Penney's, and an unspecified number of Amazon stores. Not good, Jim.
No, it's not. And you know, when Walmart is closing, if Walmart is closing, that's a pretty significant, you know? I mean, really. Now, was it Walmart that said they were closing because they were, one of the stores said they were closing because in certain markets because of the theft.
That wasn't Walmart. Walmart basically,
8
they're
stores.
just citing poor performance
Right,
of
poor
their
performance.
pickup-only concepts.
Yes, exactly. But there was one of the stores that was saying that they were going to close because of theft. And I think they were stores in the West generally, if memory serves. And actually it is Walmart in Portland.
Oh, okay.
So I was right about that, Reggie. Do I get a dinner for that one?
No, you got.
But you know, some of the discount chains here, Big Lots, Walmart, Amazon. Who expected that? I wonder if our warehouses are going to end up empty at some point in the future. Probably not, but I mean that's a pretty big shift.
Yes.
And I saw that Amazon in the most recent earnings cycle posted a significant loss. Is that what I saw?
Amazon.
Yeah.
I am not absolutely certain.
Yeah.
I didn't pay much attention to their earnings report.
And let's be clear, Amazon's not Amazon just started to put their stores out in the market, and they're not building on their expansion. That was those stores when you can go in, take the items that you want, and walk out without
Right.
it to be scanned. So that was a large tech investment in those stores, and see that technology and get the people to buy into that. This isn't the time to have those kind of stores up and running as well, especially you talk about if there is a recession at hand. Putting more money into that strategy doesn't make sense. So I think there's a story behind some of these stores here that gives a little bit more detail. J.C. Penney's and Macy's, they've been closing now stores for the last maybe 5 years or better. They've been shutting down stores because department stores, as you can see, the amount of real estate in the rental space of department stores, there has been a huge push for their online as well as they compete with things like Amazon and the Walmart's online as well. So that's just been a consistent move that we've seen. So seeing two JCPenney's and 4 Macy's really doesn't surprise me. But going to what you said, Jim, is the Big Lots, the discount stores. They usually survive because that's where people go to when things get tight.
But the one thing in regards to the Big Lots that they talked about in this article is they were shutting down stores in California and Colorado because they were shifting to more rural areas and leaving urban areas. So it looks like a strategy shift.
Right. So they're not just shutting down stores because, and we got to also take in consideration, a lot of these stores were also flush with cash and dealt with supply chain issues during the pandemic.
And are still dealing with them.
And now we're making strategic decisions on where they place their stores. You know, do they keep stores open, and how do they save some of that cash that they probably got infused from the government during some of these supply chain issues? And the supply chain issues have not 100% resolved themselves, especially we see coming out of China. So I think a lot of that is taken in consideration of their pure strategy. This is less of responsiveness to, oh my gosh, there's a huge recession hitting retail, though retail is impacted. This seems to be a proactive move by retail to kind of shift from post-pandemic and being prepared for where it's going to go in the near future.
But here's the thing that should make Americans weary. We need actually more of this to happen to cool off inflation. Because if we look at all the measures of what is looking recessionary and what is looking normal, part of the problem is that our jobless claims are still in good shape. And the Federal Reserve, in their testimony in front of Congress yesterday, the chairman basically explained until jobless claims start to go up, that's one of the signals that they're going to have to keep their foot on the pedal and continue to raise interest rates.
Well, and I don't, recession, even with the recession, I'm not sure that the recession is going to have as much of an impact on jobless claims as it did in former recessions, because we know there is a shortage of workers. We had all of these people that jumped out of the market, and so far they haven't jumped back into the labor market at the time of the pandemic, and it created a hole. Now, granted, it's not near as much a seller's market from an employee standpoint as it was even 2 months ago, but it's still not bad.
Yeah, I believe there's also a creator market of individuals that are still doing their passions for work right now. They really haven't been hit with a great need for finances. They're still pursuing their passion, doing things on YouTube and TikTok and some of these social media things, and they're bringing in revenue. But all that money comes from what?
The consumers that are working.
Marketing dollars.
Yeah.
Right? So when marketing dollars dry up from some of these large businesses that don't want to mark on your TikTok feed anymore because they don't have the money to put towards that anymore, then all of a sudden you have to start looking for employment, because being an entrepreneur, self-employed in the creative market may no longer allow you to do that as a passion, as a job right now. So I think a lot of that shift may happen. I think it'll be a tidal wave of that, because we've seen that happen during the pandemic when people really reevaluated, do they want to go back to their 9 to 5, or do they want to become entrepreneurs or go into the creative market? I think some of those individuals are still hanging on, and one push may drive them back into the job market as well, filling those jobs and making it more competitive for those jobs as well. And once that competition increases, then it goes back into the employers. Right now, we know wages are still higher than what they have been in years, right? So now when you see a greater demand of employees, then you start to, people who aren't performing, those people you are allowing to quiet quit, you say, you know what? I'm gonna loudly fire you.
Yeah.
Right? So I think some of that shift is we still see some of that residual stuff from a human resource standpoint in a lot of businesses, a lot of hanging on to poor performers, and a lot of people who have not really returned to the job market, and because of that, the competition is in there, and I think competition is on its way.
Yeah. So to close the loop on the Amazon thing, they missed their revenue projections 2 out of 4 quarters in 2022, and they missed their earnings per share 3 out of 4 quarters. So, interesting.
It's not too bad. He's still trying to buy your team, right? Snyder himself.
Hopefully. My Commanders.
Yep.
But there are more and more signs that are pointing to we're not going to have a soft landing.
No.
From the impending or existing recession, and these are things that are going to affect us not only nationally but locally. And I would love to have Julie Rahm back on the show to see what she sees from her vantage point, because when she was with us last year, she talked about our community being a laggard.
Yep.
I would wonder if that trend is still holding true, or are we gonna, with the inflationary impacts and if unemployment starts to rise, will we start to see that immediately? And if we look at the city of Hagerstown, how is that going to affect all the growth items we have, such as the stadium and different things that are coming on the horizon?
It's going to be interesting.
And the rumor around the outlets being closed.
Yes.
Which was a central part of bringing in tourism at some point, a retail tourism into the area, which has pretty much tailed off over the last maybe 5 or 10 years.
Yeah. Stay with us, and we're going to have Fast Five after the break. Welcome back to the show. Gentlemen, let's jump into Fast Five. First topic. Terrence, I'm coming to you first. Dirt bikes on Maryland streets, road towards solution from Annapolis, filled with obstacles. What do you say? What say you?
I know this is a hot topic, especially here locally as well. I must admit, originally, I was like, oh, people just blown out of proportion. It's annoying. So it is downright annoying. It's dangerous, and I've had to swerve. I had to miss people. I can't see why there would be any opposition to any kind of legislation around it. Please put something in place that allows people who want to ride their dirt bike to do somewhere safely and not cause safety issues to people on the public streets.
Jim.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's a hazard. I could even make an argument for it if they followed the rules of the road, but they don't.
Yep.
And the thing is, sometimes when they weave in and out of traffic, like you're sitting at a light and all of a sudden somebody just weaves by, it's alarming
It is alarming.
to see that type of thing. So, next up, gentlemen, big shakeup. Big shakeups to Social Security in 2023.
Yeah, so 8.7% jump in the cost of living adjustment in 2023, the biggest increase in 41 years. I guess the tables on when Social Security is going to run out of money just got shorter. We got to do something about that, but nobody. It's like the third rail in national politics.
I think when it comes to Social Security, people always think of elderly in regards to utilizing Social Security. But I don't think people realize all the offshoots of Social Security and all the people that have access to Social Security. I mean, you have Social Security for retirement age, you have Social Security disability, you have children of deceased parents that have
Social Security.
Social Security. And there's many other offshoots based off of whether you're taking care of elderly folks or dependent of, where you have access to Social Security. So an 8.7% jump is tremendous, and I can only see that putting more strain on the system.
Yeah, and we're living longer.
Yes.
As we improve medicine and healthcare, we live longer, which puts another strain on Social Security. Having more children, like you said, families are larger that are when you do leave, or that are taken care of when you left behind. So, but as Jim pointed out, you don't touch Social Security politically. It's
the third rail,
right? It's suicide.
Yeah.
If you see both parties agree on anything, we just seen it recently. We ain't touching Social Security.
Right.
We're gonna protect Social Security. That's Social Security, military.
But protecting Social Security means you have to touch it. That's the problem. That's the problem, right? The solution is a math problem that's simple to solve. It's the political problem of touching it that's the big issue.
Right. No, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. But it becomes that tagline that we're not going to touch Social Security means that we're not going to strip it away.
Right.
Right. And that's the mindset, because we talk about pensions that happen at one point in time, and the ships of 401ks that happen in the work environment. So, and there's always been a push for many years and several presidents ago that said that they wanted to make that shift to Social Security something similar as well as a savings fund as well.
And that died very quickly.
Absolutely. But sooner or later, someone has to get screwed, for lack of a better word, for us to fix Social Security, because it has to be a stopgate somewhere.
It's kind of like the debt limit. It has to be on the brink until someone makes a decision.
Right, but there's going to be a generation that's going to miss out on these benefits.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Period, before they get fixed.
Yeah, exactly. So the other thing that's interesting is that the limit on maximum earnings subject to Social Security is going to raise as well. I remember for years it was like $120,000 or $110,000. It creeped up in 2022, and I think this is more than 1 year, but it was up at 147. Now in 2023, it's 160,200.
Yeah,
so what that means is
you got to get more revenue.
Yeah. So what that means is that previously, if you made, or in 2022, if you made $147,000, you would see your Social Security stop. You would not be subject to those taxes
After you hit that limit.
after you hit that limit, nor would your company be subject to those taxes for the company portion, because it's it's an equal percentage paid by the company and paid by the employee. So now that'll be $160,000 versus $147,000.
Yeah.
Which is a substantial increase.
Yes, it is. Gentlemen, next topic. I'm coming to you on this one, Jim. Maryland Republicans prioritize violent crime legislation.
They do. Yeah. So this is about firearms. This is about any number of things. I don't think they're going to be successful in a lot of it, personally.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to get much agreement or cohesion with Democrats on a lot of these issues. Terrence, what say you?
I say what stick out is the issue around minors and treating minors as adults and in the age limit around minors for ages, I think, under 12 years old, being treated as adults. And there's some incidents cited of minors not being treated as adults but committing violent crimes. I think that's going to be a sticking point. We talk about hot items, right? You talk about children, and what is some of that stuff is debatable as you start thinking about psychology, brain development and things like that, and opposing a life sentence on a child. Again, I'm not putting my politics in here. I'm just saying these are the kind of points of contention that will be brought up that's going to make it hard for this to go through.
Yeah, agreed. Gentlemen, next topic. Southwest official on December service meltdown said, "We messed up."
Boy, that's the understatement of the year, isn't it? Yeah, I mean,
They had to cancel more than 16,700 flights over Christmas week.
yeah. Yeah, there's going to be a backlash for this, about this long term for that company. I haven't watched what their stock's doing, but I can't imagine that this helped at all. The good news is that nobody was hurt as a result of it. I mean, physically hurt. And hopefully they'll take this and use it to improve their company. But to say that we messed up, and I think that's a quote from,
exactly.
Yeah,
That's kind of the obvious.
yeah, that's Captain Obvious, right?
Yeah. Terrence, what say you?
That aside, Southwest used to be the model in business courses for how their customer service, their quality of service. That has shifted so much in the last 10 years or so, and they seem to continue to be in the news, nothing positive. So I don't know enough about leadership and who's in place in this organization or what's going on, but it seems to be a trend of bad decision making and low quality performance at every level. So I think some heads will roll, and I think there's going to ultimately be a huge shakeup in administration at the leadership level of Southwest sooner or later.
Yeah, that piqued my interest. I'll have to look at the stock and see how it's performed through this mess. Gentlemen, last topic. Delivery driver refuses to hand over food after receiving an $8 tip. Jim, I'm coming to you because you wanted another topic about tips.
Yeah. This is unconscionable in my view, to not hand over the food. I mean, here's the deal. The issue here is the delivery driver said they made a 40-minute trip to deliver food for a customer, and after delivering the order, he discovered that the customer had, after getting to the location apparently, he discovered the customer was only going to tip him $8, and based on that, he didn't hand over the food, he just left. Now, 40 minutes. This was a 12.5-mile trip. So I'm assuming there was some traffic involved or something else that caused the delay. That's not the guy that ordered the food's fault.
I blame the process. In hindsight, if you go down and sit at a dinner table, you measure your tip by the service you receive. We're not doing that anymore. Right now, we're paying our tip in advance. You get an option.
You demand it.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're getting an option when you put in the app and you order food or groceries. You have to put in how much you want to tip in advance. Now, if that individual is seeing that, then they're working down to that tip. They're not giving you optimum service trying to get a larger tip. They're saying, "Oh, you only gave me $5. You only gave me $8. You're going to get $8 worth of service." So I think that's a process issue where those people delivering this service should not be be aware of what they're being tipped, because then they're going to You know, they're not going to, especially when we're paying service fees already.
Right.
So I'm actually paying for the service.
Right.
Me giving you a tip is gratuity, gratitude, which I don't have to give you because I've already paid for the food and the service to actually come. So you're actually violating that contract between you and your employer.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a problem.
Yeah. The good news for the guy that got stiffed his food was his video has been viewed more than 800,000 times on YouTube.
I'm sure they did something to make it up to him at this point.
Yeah.
That's not good PR for them.
No, it's not.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen, good show. Terrence, nice to have you back. Hopefully you will stick to company policy going forward and be able to be here.
No more PTO.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all disapproved.
Exactly. Well, that is all the time that we have for tonight. We hope that you'll like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and send us your comments to feedback@theflipsidetv.com. That is feedback@theflipsidetv.com. But most importantly, join us again next week for another episode of The Flip Side.